right that we should honor him today. It's a pity that he wasn't able to come, but he sent his apologies and sent his greetings, which I hope will be shared by Dr. Lillian, which was sent through Professor Tina Steiner when they met. So we don't need his presence in order to honor him, and that is why I really, really want to celebrate you all gathered here to celebrate him as we celebrate African literature. I want to take this opportunity to thank our partners, and especially with big emphasis, I want to thank Kyambogo University. Thank you. It's been a roller coaster organizing, but Kyambogo University became a cushion. They really cushioned us, and they have made this journey an easy journey. Where we had lots of doubts, where we had lots of fears, they calmed us down. They calmed us down. You've listened to our beautiful invocation by Dr. Sister Namirembe, and together with Dr. Sister Nachiwala, they've really been there for us. And the head of department, Miss Elizabeth Asimwe, they've been there for us. The dean, the VC, the US secretary, everybody just came on board, and they made the process easier than we thought. And so we honor you. We celebrate Kyambogo University, and we know that with this spirit, you're headed to the heights. You are really, really headed to the heights. Because sometimes there are little things that we do, and we may not imagine where they are taking us, but this is, for me, a stride that makes me honor Kyambogo University and makes me really, really appreciate your service to community, to education, to promotion of others. And so we honor you. I want to thank our partners, the Ford Foundation, Fountain Publishers, the Swedish Embassy. They are not represented here. They have activities this whole week and next week. They have guests in the country, so they have sent their apologies, but they are with us. The Aga Khan Foundation has supported us tremendously, and I think they are represented in the house. If they are not, they'll join us later, but they are meant to be here. And so this has not been just a Femurite journey. It's been a journey of many people, and I want to thank them. And allow me, before I leave the podium, allow me to call we've had two organizing committees, a regional committee and a country committee. The country committee will still be in the kitchen, probably cooking, and may not be here. But I want to recognize Professor Egara Kabaji, who, please stand up for recognition. He's a member of the Power Council, the Pan-African Writers Association, and so he has chaired the meetings for the regional committee. And that committee also had Dr. Linda Lillian. I think she's moved out. It had Akite Beatrice. Are you around, Akite Beatrice? Okay. Oh, yeah. Akite Beatrice, Betty Kaigo. I think they are still outside. Maybe we'll have another opportunity to thank the team. But like to end here and hand over back to Lillian. I don't see Jacob, and so I'll hand over to Lillian, who is my chairperson. She's my boss at Femrite. So
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. We've heard from the executive director, and it would be my blessing to be the next person to speak, but who better to speak about Femrite than the mother hen? That's the nickname. The president, the honorary president. Who better to speak? I would like to call upon, I'll call her Honorable Karoro Kurut. She started this, she has had our vision, she has mothered us, and here we are today.
Thank you very much, Linda. You make me sound as if I did some, but I wasn't alone. We worked as a team, and I'm happy with all of you, young ladies and gentlemen, and even those who are not so young, for having kept the candle burning. I had my own remarks, but two things have happened. One, at 6:30, I got a call that I should go to the airport and pick a delegation at exactly 11. I wanted to say no, but somehow I couldn't. You know, those things. And then Hilda told me that the minister also got some urgent engagement. So I'm actually standing in for the minister, Honorable Peace Mutuzo, but who I understand is promising to come in at the closure, which is okay. There are so many engagements, especially towards end of the year. But even as I go to Entebbe, I'm very sure by afternoon and all the other consequent days, I'll be with you. So I'm not going to talk about Femrite. I'll have an opportunity for that one of these other days. However, now I have been requested to read the minister's remarks. I wish I wouldn't, but we have to open the conference. My remarks will be for another day, and it will be my pleasure really to talk about Femrite. Where is Dr. James Tumsime? Yes, you know, he was the first person to publish the works of Femrite. So we want to thank you, James. He watched us grow. He watched us grow. And now we are standing tall. Thank you so much, James. Taller than who? No. We shall reach there slowly. So, and my eyes are not particularly very good. But let me try. So this is the speech by the Honorable Peace Mutuzo, the State Minister for Gender and Culture. No, it's fine. No, let me struggle. Delivered at the official opening of the International Conference in honor of the life and works of Nobel Prize laureate Abdarazak Guna on 22nd November here at Kyambogo. Well, she started by acknowledging me. Then the Vice Chancellor Kyambogo University, the representative of the Pan-African Writers Association, I salute you all, the representatives of all partner organizations and distinguished delegates from Uganda and across Africa, both here physically and also attending virtually. You are welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be the one presiding over the opening of an international conference that has been organized in honor of the life and works of Nobel Prize laureate Abdarazak Guna. It is an honor because we are celebrating the first East African to win such a world honor. His achievement will continue to influence generations of East African writers to come. I'm also very pleased to note that this conference is happening in the 60th year ever since a similar conference took place at Makerere University, which had in attendance writers like Chuno Achebe, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and others that have been great pillars and influences on African literature. This conference is standing on the pedal to also influence the history of African literature during the next 60 years. I would like to underscore the role of literature not only in entertainment, education, and information, but also as a tool for cultural preservation, promotion, and development. To this end, I would like to appeal for the writing and translation of literature in the different African languages as one of the sure ways to store the erosion of our cultural values as influenced by globalization. Actually, in Uganda, we are not doing very well as far as writing in our local languages is concerned. I wrote 2 novels, but when I tried to market them, I met a dead wall. You know, like people were saying now, if our children and so on start reading vernacular, then when the medium of instruction is English, how will they cope? I said, may God be with us. There are many people don't even know that we dream in our local languages. So if you can dream in your own local language, you should be able to read. So I agree with the minister that we should promote this. So where African languages are taught as a subject, local writers have the competitive advantage over writers from other cultures to provide set books for those languages. We need the cooperation of writers in enabling African language boards to function well in growing languages through initiatives such as dictionaries and other initiatives that help develop expression in those languages. We shall also continue to ensure that the curriculum at different levels of education accommodate English set books by local writers. Dr. James Tumsima, we have been pushing this, that why are some of the books which actually are quality, why are not on the national curriculum? And we are still fighting to see that they make their way there. Because where will the modern children find some of our norms and values? How will they learn about our traditions and culture? Because writers are cultural ambassadors. We'll talk about how we used to get grasshoppers and all those things. You can only find them in literature books. And so this is why we are advocating for the writing of our folklores, our folk tales, so that the children can grow up knowing what our people used to pass on from generation to generation. I know I shouldn't be interrupting the minister's speech. It is actually unprotocol-wise. My ministry, that is the Ministry of Gender, Culture and Social Development, is currently negotiating with the rest of government on a program to provide better support to creators that include writers. We are looking to provide both financial and fiscal incentives to support your industry so that resources are never a hindrance for you to excel in your craft. We may wish to clap. And we are looking forward to the day this comes into fruition. We hope that some of these initiatives can begin to roll out by the next financial year. Hallelujah. I once again wish to thank the organizers. Thank you so much. I also want to add my voice. FemRight and all the supporting organizations. I also want to wish you a very successful deliberations and to invite our colleagues from outside Uganda to take off time to enjoy our cultures, the people and places in Uganda, so that when you go back home, you have a feel of our country. But on my, as me, Mero Crute, instead of saying come and visit our places and go, I would say better still, do not go. Stay here with us. And with these remarks, now this is the minister. It is now my pleasant duty and honor to declare this conference officially opened for God and my country. Thank you very much. Once again, I want to apologize. I wouldn't have wanted to miss a single minute of this. But let me go, and I can assure you I'll be back, and I'll be following. May God bless you all. Thank you. Linda? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Karoro Kurut. We are honored, really honored. And what foundation were part of the people that gave support for this event? And unfortunately, Jessica Horn is not here, but I'll read. She has sent her message, so I'm going to read it. To the dignitaries, okay, so before I can read, I've been informed I'm what? It's to say that you're skipping the line, eh? You're jumping the queue. I had jumped the queue. Those who know what I'm meaning, are smiling. I had jumped the queue and I really apologize. At this point, would like to call upon the Director, Fountain Publishers, James Tumusime. He's a renowned name. We've seen many books coming up, academic and also literary works, and all are to the honor of Fountain Publishers. I would like to invite James Tumusime to come and give us a word. I request that he comes this side because of the projection. There was a mix-up because the people of the cameras are saying they're not getting the lighting properly. Then we ended up not projecting properly the other side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, FemRight, for inviting me to come and give some remarks on this very important occasion of African Literature Conference. I'm not sure about the protocol, so I'll mess it up a bit and just recognize that all the organizers, their guests, and all of you here present. I recognize you. And I wish to start by thanking FemRight for organizing this conference. This is a major achievement. FemRight is one of the few organizations that have kept their eyes on the ball of writing and publishing literature. All over the government, there's a lot of activity all over the country in village development, PDM, parish development model. We have heard about universal primary and secondary education, but they don't talk very much about literature and writing. There have been a bit of emphasis on science, but still for us who have been advocates of literature and writing, we feel a little bit neglected. But FemRight have stood their ground and they continue to inspire everybody. So thank you very much, FemRight, the Executive Director, Hilda Tuongeru, and your colleagues. Thank you very much for keeping the profile of writing very high on the national agenda. I also wish to thank Pan-African Writers Association. They used to be our partners when I was still an executive in the African Publishers Network, APNET. Power, APNET, Pan-African Booksellers Association. We are partners. We wanted to develop writing and literature in Africa. I'm glad they are still very much associated with this cause. So thank you very much, Power. But most importantly, I wish to congratulate Professor Abdrazak Gulna for bringing this honor, the Nobel Prize for Literature, to Africa and East Africa in particular. I wish he was here and would shake his hand, but I wish to congratulate him very much. I think by winning this award, you have emboldened our other authors and writers that no doubt many will follow in his footsteps. And this achievement has strengthened our belief in the popular paradigm that indeed, yes, we can, because it has taken so many years for East Africa not having this type of award, but the fact that it has finally come, we are aware that it was in West Africa. West Africa had won it, and many other countries, but it had not come to East Africa. So we congratulate Professor Abdrazak for winning this award. On our behalf, I hope it will encourage all of us to know that when you put your heart on something, you can achieve it. I wish to thank Femrite further that by keeping us focused on the importance of writing and literature, as the minister said, they are helping to preserve our cultures. They are helping to preserve our languages. They are helping to preserve our identity and to make us full members of the international community. We have absorbed a lot of things from other parts of the world, and our children have imbibed whatever comes, but we don't see much coming from our own creators of language and content. So by keeping their focus on this on literature, they are helping to preserve our culture and identity. I'm particularly happy with them because these are our professional offsprings. When I started Fountain Publishers 38 years ago, we had scarcity of content to publish. We had hardly anything. We had almost Uganda had been involved in wars, and we had lost interest in writing and publishing. So when I was starting, among the things I started with was to put up an announcement in the media inviting authors of African folk tales, Ugandan folk tales. And to my surprise, the greatest enthusiasts for that in that competition were the women. Starting with Honorable Karoro Krut. She has just gone out. But she was among the most enthusiastic authors, and her books are still popular up to date. Others joined, but she did a great job. I thank her very much for being part of that. We didn't stop there. Many others joined. We put up another advert when we wanted to popularize writing about the dangers of HIV to help schools, to help school-going children under what we call the Fountain Youth Survival Kit for schools. And again, we put up an advert inviting authors. Again, the enthusiasm was dominated by the women. People like Ayeta, Wangusa, Lilian Tindiebwa, I think Beatrice Lamwaka, and others. I still remember, I can't remember all of them. But they took a lot of interest and they wrote these books, and these books form part of our literature here in this country. So I thank you, Femrite, Madam Tuonjeirwe. Thank you very much, as was said, to for keeping the candle burning and keeping the literature on top of our national agenda. People like Goreti Chomhendo, I don't know, I don't see her here, but they cut their writing teeth in Fountain Publishers and have gone on to win many awards internationally. This makes me happy and proud to know that I helped these sisters of mine and my daughters to do a great job in this world. I'm sure the next literature award that is coming will be won by some of these ladies. I pray that you have already shown that you can do it, so please proceed and do it. I thank those who have supported you, the Swedish Embassy, the Ford Foundation, the Aga Khan Foundation, and never hesitate to call upon Fountain Publishers to support you whenever you have an important event like this one. Thank you very much. Continue. I wish you a very successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, James Tumsime. You could clap for him, please, as he takes back his seat. We want to recognize the presence of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Kyambogo University, that is hosting us today, Professor Mary Musoke. You're so welcome. And in that regard, we would like to request that you take up the seat up here, if you do not mind. And she shall be joined by the Dean, or representative of the Dean, and Executive Director of FemRite, and the Head of Department Literature. So as they take their seats, I will, one of the things that you have heard again and again is FemRite's power to coordinate with other organizations in supporting literary works. And so one of the partners has been POWER, the Pan-African Writers Association, represented by Professor Kabaji, who I will invite to give his remarks. Thank you so very much.
The Vice Chancellor, Kyambogo University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. Hamjambo. Asante sana. I'm here representing the Pan-African Writers Association. I serve as the Vice President of Pan-African Writers Association. Pan-African Writers Association is, as the name suggests, Pan-African, and we have one president and a number of vice presidents representing various regions, and I represent East Africa. I will take a few minutes to make my remarks because I think we are all eager to engage the works of Abdurazak Gurna and other works as we celebrate African literature. It is with immense pleasure and profound honor that we gather here to celebrate African literature and more so the works of Gurna. And on behalf of Pan-African Writers Association, I want to welcome you to this conference because we have been part and parcel of the organization of this conference. The Pan-African Writers Association, as Dr. Tumseme said, is an entity of the African Union and a leading Pan-African cultural institution accorded full diplomatic status by the government of Ghana in 1992. It is made up of 52 national writers associations on the continent and seeks to contribute its quota to moral, cultural, and intellectual renaissance in Africa. Power was formed to be a forum for all African writers and those of African origin. One of its obligations is to encourage the creation and recognition of the national writers associations in every African country. It is also established to strongly search for and defend the freedom of expression of all Africans and the material and moral interests of writers and their associations. Power also seeks to promote literacy and eradicate illiteracy in Africa. More so, it works to promote the integration of African literary works in teaching programs, promote African languages, and the translation of African literature into African languages. And I was happy about the idea of writing in African languages. And indeed, we are making progress in this direction. And I believe that this movement is going to catch up with all writers in Africa. I've just completed writing a dictionary in my first language called Maragoli. And it will be launched on 9th of December this year. And so there is movement in this direction, and I believe that this is the way to go. Pan-African Writers Association promotes research in the documentation and in the recovery of lost and undiscovered African heritage, whether on the continent, in the diaspora, or in a museum and libraries around the world. I'm sure you know a lot of our works were stolen and are held in some museums out there. We work to stimulate cooperation between the Pan-African Writers Association and other writers' organizations around the world. We also promote peace and understanding in Africa and around the world through literature, and support and promote the creation of publishing houses in Africa. And more significantly, we support and promote the creation of book distribution and circulation networks in Africa, among other things. As we celebrate African literature and the life and works of Abdurazak Gurna, it is important for us to also reflect on a number of things that are happening around us. You know that we writers are sensitive to human suffering. And as Pan-African Writers Association, we have taken note of what is happening in the world, specifically in the Middle East and in Ukraine. And we feel for the suffering and the pain that the people are going through. And we have called upon the world to focus on this crisis and find an amicable solution, a peaceful, amicable solution, so that we stop the suffering of especially women and children. I'm not saying that men should suffer. This is also an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to nurturing and amplifying the voices of emerging talents. Let us create spaces where African stories, both ancient and contemporary, find resonance and appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, in celebrating African literature, we are in essence celebrating the very soul of our continent. We are celebrating resilience, diversity, and the power of storytelling to bridge cultures and transcend boundaries. Let us continue to cherish, uplift, and celebrate the extraordinary literary heritage that Africa proudly offers to the world. African literature is a treasure trove of diverse narratives, rich cultural expressions, and profound insights into the human experience. Its achievements are multifaceted, reflecting the depth and breadth of the continent's literary landscape. I believe we will be exploring these aspects in our papers on African literature and specifically on the works of Guruna. I look forward to engaging more intensely on the emergence of new and diverse voices in African literature and how they continue to expand the literary landscape. Indeed, African writers frequently delve into themes of identity, heritage, and cultural complexities. They navigate issues of colonialism, post-colonialism, and cultural hybridity, weaving these elements into their narratives to portray the multifaceted nature of African identities. To this end, I believe we are here to engage these issues and more issues that will emerge from the papers. Once again, on behalf of the Pan-African Association Council, rather Pan-African Writers Association Council, and partner organizations from 52 African countries, I wish to thank FEMRIGHT. Indeed, FEMRIGHT has been consistent. There are very few organizations in Africa that remain consistent as FEMRIGHT has been. The survival rate of organizations, just like the survival rate of businesses in Africa, is minimal. Out of 100 businesses or organizations that are formed, only about 3 or 4 will survive. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank FEMRIGHT for the vision and commitment to literature. Indeed, FEMRIGHT is taking a leading role in organizing conferences, and I've been privy to a number of them, and I wish to say thank you very much. Continue with that spirit. On behalf of the Pan-African Writers Association Council, I want to say thank you very much, and may you have a fruitful conference. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so very much, Professor Igara Kabaji of Power, and all those very encouraging and illuminating words you've given us. So we're going to continue with our program, and I will be inviting Dr. Linda Lillian to read for us Jessica Horn's message as we continue. Truthfully, from the words we've heard so far, it is clear that the works of Abdurazak Guruna are worth celebrating for many reasons. If you've in fact been following what is going on in Europe, the refugee crisis, not just in Europe, everywhere, and knowing that Abdurazak Guruna is also a refugee who goes to Europe, and is managing to, win a Nobel Prize in 2021, realized that there's no better time to celebrate his works than now. So, Lillian.
I will implore you to look at me and see Jessica, okay? To the dignitaries, fellow writers and friends, supporters of African literature, good to you. My apologies that I am not able to be there in person. I was very much looking forward to attending this historic event. However, I'm glad that the Ford Foundation East Africa has been able to support this and to be able to honor both our Nobel laureate from Tanzania, Abdurazak Gurna, and his tremendous achievements, and our Ugandan trailblazers, Temrite, who have held space to encourage both the evolution of women's literature and African literature overall, as we see with this conference. It is of institutional significance, also personal significance, that I'm participating, albeit at a distance, in this event, as my late grandfather Timothy Bazarabusa was a committed advocate of not just African literature, but the production of texts in our own African languages, as he did with Rutoro. What is notable is that as much as the majority of African story traditions were oral, as soon as we had access to pen and paper, we wrote and wrote and wrote. This continent and its diaspora are terrains of story, a deep commitment to narrative and narrative traditions. These few days will allow for a celebration of this incredible fact, and I hope strategizing too about how we can continue to enable this to be so. I wish you the best with your deliberations. Jessica, on. And now you can look at me as Linda Lillian. I'd like to use this opportunity to invite the head of the person who's standing in for Dr. Elizabeth, that is Sister Dr. Nachiwala, Ambrosia Nachiwala, to come and give us a word. That is the head of Department, Literature and Film Studies, Kyambogo University.
I am wearing shoes that are too big for me. The Honorable Minister of State in absentia, Minister of State for Gender and Culture in absentia, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academic Affairs, Kyambogo University, the Dean, Faculty of Arts and Humanities, the President of FEMRITE in absentia, the Director of Power, the Director of Fountain Publishers who was here, the Director of Ford Foundation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my head of department, the Department of Literature and Film Studies, I welcome you to Kyambogo Department of Literature and Film Studies. I welcome you. This conference is a special occasion for us. And I want to thank those who chose the Department of Literature to partner with FEMRITE and other partners to host this conference. You could have chosen another part, another place. I want to use the words of Chinua Achebe, who says that when people gather in your homestead to watch a new moon, it's not because they cannot see the new moon in their compounds,
And when they gather for party in your home, it's not because they don't have food in their homesteads. Rather, it's because it's good for kinsmen to come together. Literature people, we are kinsmen. We are united by our subject, literature, the most beautiful subject, if I could say. The sacred subject. We have come here to celebrate the first Nobel Prize winner in East Africa, and none other than Professor Abdrazak Gura. I want to congratulate Professor upon winning this Nobel Prize. It's not easy. You all know that to write you need the muses. The Christian muse, the big one, and then the other muses, the Greek ones, Calliope, for instance, Utepe, for instance, and so many more muses, as you know them. You need to call upon them, and they come and inspire you. Of course, I'm a Christian. I call upon the Christian muse, but I don't forget the others as well, because literature is not for one. When you write, you look backward, you look forward, and then you cross the road. So I can't forget the Greeks. So this man was inspired and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And now we are here to celebrate him. So I congratulate him. And I want to thank all of you for coming to celebrate with us this great man. Thank you, Femrite, for preparing this. Thank you, partners of Femrite. Now, I'd like also to acknowledge the wonderful people who have helped us to put this together. First of all, I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor and the management team of Kyambogo University for allowing us to host this conference in Kyambogo University. Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. I thank the faculty, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Humanities for untiring effort to put all this together in a very, very short time. Now I got Femrite. Femrite, who are we to partner with you? Thank you very much for allowing us to be your partners. I want to thank Aga Khan and Power, the Ford Foundation, the Swedish Embassy, the Fountain Publishers, and many other people who have put hands together to enable this occasion to take place. Thank you very, very much. As I end my remarks, I would like to say that this is a special occasion for us. When I look around, I see many young people who are going to be inspired into writing and following the footsteps of Professor Gura. So, to bring this conference here is to restart our journey, which starts with one step and then makes 1,000 steps, a journey of 1,000 steps. So thank you very much for enabling us to get this wonderful occasion. As we celebrate, I want everybody here to feel at home. Relax. Karibun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are also going to assist us, invite the...
Thank you, MC. It was my bound duty to invite the Dean of the representative of the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. I apologize for that.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Dr. Nachuala, and the MC, the Vice Chancellor, Executive Director, FEMRIGHT, the President, Pan-African Writers Association, dignitaries here, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to stand here this morning to represent the Dean, Faculty of Arts and Humanities, Kyambogo University. None other than Associate Professor Elizabeth Chazike. Myself, my name is Robert Ojambo. I come from the Department of History, Archaeology, and the Heritage, the department that I head. And I've been requested this morning to represent the Dean here. This function has coincided with a very big meeting in our university. The University Senate is right now sitting to prepare for a graduation ceremony that is going to happen very soon. And probably, as the Vice Chancellor will inform you in details, we also welcome you to the faculty and in the university at a time when the university is doing end of semester exams. Many of you might have wondered whether this university does not have students. They are either in the library reading or they are in the exam rooms writing their papers. Otherwise, this room would have been full. Madam Vice Chancellor, when FEMRIGHT came requesting to come and host this conference here, as a faculty, we were confused, but at the same time, relieved. Confused because of the timing. It was a time when we were deep in the second week of examination, and we wondered what we could do. But after a long discussion, I said, let me give it a try. Unfortunately, I was the one in the office of the Dean. So I said, let me give it a try, and requested the university secretary. I was shocked that he did not have any hesitation. He just said, let them come. Then I was relieved that for a very long time, FEMRIGHT had now remembered that there is a university called Kyambogo University. It was a huge relief because when I checked, FEMRIGHT has been here since 1995, inaugurated in 1996. What had happened? We want to welcome you, FEMRIGHT. We welcome the Pan-African Writers Association, and we welcome all the dignitaries that have chosen to spend their 3 days in Kyambogo University under the umbrella of Faculty of Arts and Humanities. Before I tell you what the Dean has requested me to say, allow me just to give my own remarks because this is a golden moment. I never read literature myself. I tried in senior 4, I couldn't, because I was not very good at reading, and reading to follow something. I would read 5 pages, stop there and leave. So when I went for senior 5, one of the subjects I was supposed to do was literature. Then they gave me 5 books. And they said more are coming. I went and requested the Department of Geography so that they would admit me and I leave this literature. They did not. So I went and did something else. Probably that's why I'm in the Department of History. But I wanted to read literature, but now I have a disease, and that disease has never cured. I cannot read a book and complete it in a single day, however small it is. I lack that concentration. I have talked to many doctors to assist me. They have failed to give me the tablet. But that disease is again impaired by the love of following stories. I like stories, especially folk stories. I was introduced to folk stories by my grandmother and used to tell me stories, and I would want her to explain, for example, how hare, very small, would overcome lion, the big thing. And she used to tell me, if we explain, you will not grow. I didn't know what it meant, but she didn't want us to go into the meaning. She wanted me to make the meaning myself. So I thought I would read literature because there are so many stories there. I was encumbered by the disease that I have. But at least I have read some literature books. And I thank Sister, my great writer is Chinua Achebe. He makes me understand the Igbo culture as if I live there. In the book of Things Fall Apart, it's a long story. But the fascinating part is when that man called Okonkwo was now taking this little girl they had stayed with for a very long time at home and had almost become, no, a little boy, who had become his son, adopted son. And the gods had said that this young man should be taken back to his home, and reaching the forest, he was ordered to kill this young man, was supposed to be killed. And I was imagining what was going to happen. Who is going to strike this young man dead? Is it going to be the other people? And as the other guys were delaying, Okonkwo himself struck the young man dead, and because of that, he had to go for exile, which exile caused a very huge problem to him and the people of that place. Because it was during that exile that the colonialists, the missionaries, started coming. And he was hearing that his son Noah had already converted to the missionaries. And later, this perturbs Okonkwo. And he wonders, and that is where things fall apart. So that is my great right. I like him so much. Of course, when I come back to East Africa, I like the works of Ngugi wa Thiong'o. I was imagining the river between. What's the thing? They have now constructed a huge shopping center to represent that in Nairobi. And the first time I went, when it had been completed, I had to go there and see the river between. And it is a very good complex. And of course here, I like Okot Bitek in Uganda. If you're a writer and I don't like you, it's just because I've not read you. One time, I was at the University of Dar es Salaam. I asked Wole Soyinka, the man with the huge hair, why do you write complicated novels? He told me a fascinating answer, that when you read a novel and you find it complicated, it is not for you. And I took that very seriously. And that leads me to Abdul Razak Gura, the man we are celebrating this morning. I tried to read a little about him. I discovered that he draws his literature widely from Arabic, but Shakespeare. And when I saw the name Shakespeare there, I started fearing. I remembered Wole Soyinka. Because Shakespeare writers, I find them very complicated. One of them was John Nagenda. Every Sunday, I would buy a newspaper, New Vision, to read John Nagenda. And you would never know what he's writing until you read the whole thing. And sometimes you would read the whole thing, and still you don't. What is John Nagenda saying? Shakespeare writers are very difficult. But I was shocked by this Abdul Razak Graham. I tried to read part of his work. I discovered that when he wrote his first novel, he hawked it for about 12 years nobody was publishing it. Because he was giving an experience which most publishers did not understand. And that is the trouble we go through, people who deal with humanities. Very few people understand our experiences. I'll give you a most recent experience I had. There's a journal in America. I was writing about the church and calling our churches here born again. And the author there was telling me they are not called born again, they are Pentecostals. And we argued until I told him, keep your publication. I cannot write what I don't understand. Because he was telling me, I change wherever I have called those people born again Christians, Pentecostals. So that lack of understanding of our experience, what do you want? Why do you want to make me write what you know and not what I know? So that's what this man was suffering from. And he later published that book, and that was the opening. Of course, when he got the Nobel Prize, the committee was asked why they had given him this Nobel Prize. And the committee wrote, I quote, "It was because of his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fate of the refugees in the gulf between cultures and continents." That is what made this man to get this Nobel Prize. If I can just talk about it a little bit for a few minutes. Colonialism in Africa, for us historians, we call it a double-edged sword. Colonialism is not totally bad. It's good. That's why I'm speaking English here. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to communicate to you in my language. I come from a very small community of people called Basamia. But I grew up in Busoga and lived in Kakira for all my life. And therefore, I know so many languages of African descent, including some which are foreign from this country. I heard somebody say it's a Maragoli. Oh my God, I know the language. Because there are some people there whom we live with. But colonialism has also done a very bad thing to our culture, especially. I tend telling people that is there anybody who has not been affected by colonialism and who can say that we are out of colonialism, even in this room? And if you say so, I'm going to request you that as we get out there, you leave everything you think is colonialist on you, and we see how you will look like. I normally tell people, they ask me, what is your name? I say, my name is Ojambo. They ask, but that is not full. What's your real name? Say, my name is Ojambo. What is your name? Until I say, my name is Ojambo Robert. A big burden. I carry this burden of Robert everywhere I go. I am like a car which was made in Japan, but carries a Ugandan number plate, where nothing on that car has come from Uganda. And it is something that perturbs me. Somebody asks me, and sister, you will forgive me, what is your religion? I say, African. My religion is African. They say, but you are Robert. I said, that is a number plate. That is a number plate. But as I pretend, can I remove this number plate from me? It is like indelible ink. How can we remove it? I don't know. Maybe this conference will discuss such things. And those are the things that were perturbing this gentleman. Just to give you, since I come from the Department of History, to give you a brief history of Nobel Prize. Nobel, this man was a Swedish, and he discovered something. And in 1901, they said they should honor people who contribute academically. And from 1901, nobody from the continent of Africa won this prize until 1951. And in 1951, the one who won was Mark Taylor from South Africa. He was a physiologist. If you want, it was a Nobel Prize for medicine. Now, this man was fascinating. He was in Africa. The second person to win in Africa was Albert Luthuli. Albert Luthuli won in 1960, and it was because of his fighting for freedom. So Africa, you win only when you are fighting for freedom. The other one, by the way, the first one, they doubted whether it had been won by an African because the man did not have a black skin. So they normally say the first black person to win was this one. But I disagree. I think Marx was an African. I think so. The thing rotated and it did not come to outside South Africa for a very long time. Allow me correct this impression. If you allow me, the first East African to win the Nobel Prize, and we are very honored, was Mangari Maathai in 2004. And it was for protecting environment. What was a great thing? That Africans can also protect their own environment, which they had been accused for destroying for a very long time, which was a lie. Africans have never destroyed their environment. They lived with it. They honored it. They protected it. The environment only started getting problems when the colonialists came here. Just like I normally tell people, where I come from the Luya community, we don't rear chicken. We don't rear chicken. You cannot find me that I have a chicken stall somewhere with the fantastic things. So you are wondering, what do? We live with chicken. We live with them in the same house. When you open the door, the chicken gets out first and you follow. When you come back, the chicken enters first and you follow. And if I went today to see my grandmother or my what or my uncle, the only gracious thing that they can give me is a chicken. Go and live with it. If they give you a cock, it is for you to go and eat. If they give you a hen, that is your relative. You are supposed even to give it a name and you start living with it. That is our culture. So Wangari Maathai was not just learning to deal with the environment because he had studied environmental studies, but it was the African in her. Of course, the thing has eluded us until 2021 when this man won this great prize. We honor it and we celebrate it as the Faculty of Arts and Humanities and Kyambogo University. We are great to be honored to celebrate this great man. As I sit, let me just talk about Femirites because they're the ones who contacted us, of course, with the support of Pan-African movement. Now, I was looking at this, and it's unfortunate that the Honorable has gone, the minister. I wanted to ask her where she got this idea. As Sister said, you call them what? Those things? The spirits, the muses. Where did she get this spirit to come up with this Femrite thing? in 1995, launched in March 1996. When they were asked why they were forming this, and the executive director maybe will confirm or dispute, they said there was absence of women writers and therefore omission of women experience from literature and heritage. That is the reason. And they have stood to their mission. Out of that, I was just checking. There have been so many great writers. Just allow me give you a few. Mary Karoro Okurut, Monica Arach, Doreen Baingana, Budesta Batanga, Susan Chiguri, etc. And these have won many awards all over the world. They normally say the sky is the limit. We have disputed that. It is limitless. And we expect and we want to pray, we want to evoke the spirits that this time, when Nobel is looking at the people to nominate and later award, it will be one of these women. Why not? And for those who are from Kyambogo University, I would like to encourage you to follow the footsteps of these great women. Of course, there have been men there, but men have been celebrated for so long. Beginning with Adam, I tend to think that even maybe God might have been a man. Because when you see the bias, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. So our issue at Kyambogo University is how do we learn from Guna's experience? And how do we learn from the experience of Femirite to push the candle burning? And burning not only to be here to write novels to be read, but novels that are going to impact on the lives of the people. And there are those. And I want to thank as I'm tending to now inviting the Vice Chancellor, I want to thank Professor Maria Musoke. Professor Maria Musoke is a pure scientist in that merit, but loves arts and humanities. And I think that's why she's here. That's why she's here. In fact, when she came in, I was surprised. Now I'm full of surprises. Sometimes I get surprised because she had already sent me a note to represent her, and I was wondering, how would I do this? It was going to be very difficult. From humble Faculty of Arts and Humanities to represent the Vice Chancellor, it was going to be very difficult. So when she came in, I was again relieved. But it shows the love that she has for this faculty and what the people do. Because as I told you, there is a huge Senate meeting. And you know, she's in charge of academic affairs. But she has decided to come. Madam, thank you so much, Professor. We are grateful. And on that note, I want to take this to invite you to give your remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert, very much. I don't know whether I should remove this mask. I have flu. I don't want to infect with this mask. I don't want to infect with this mic. The representative of the Pan-African Writers Association, the executive director of Femrite, the director of Fountain Publishers, a representative of the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Arts and Humanities, the sponsors, our guests, ladies and gentlemen, I beg you to allow me to continue. I'm not sure about the protocol. If the protocol is upside down, forgive me. I have observed all the protocol. And on behalf of Kyambogo University top management and on my own behalf, I would like to welcome you to Kyambogo University and to request you to feel at home. I bring you greetings from the Vice Chancellor of Kyambogo University, Professor Eli Katunguka. Not able to be here for the reasons Dr. Ojambo has ably given you. I got to know about this conference yesterday around 6 p.m. I didn't even know where the venue was. I tried to call the numbers which were on this invitation. None of them was going through. And then I realized I'm here, I'm at home. So I contacted the Dean of Faculty of Arts and Humanities, and she gave me the details of what was happening. And indeed, Robert was acting when this conference came to Uganda. He was the dean then. There is always a dean, there is always a VC, there is no vacuum. Indeed, as Robert has informed you, they did these academic affairs, and therefore I had 3 presentations to make at Senate. But when I shared with a VC, and I informed him that I had requested Robert to represent the office of the VC said no. He's going to represent the dean, and then he represents the VC. That will be too much. The conference will not feel like we have interest in what is going on. We must show our presence and our interest in this conference. That's why I'm here. I love art. I love history. I told Dr. Jambo that I got 1 in history at all levels. So I like history. I'm a biological scientist, but nature, culture, I love all these things. I love music. When there is a music, I have to be the first person there. When the Department of Art and Design are doing their things, they invite me and they say, oh my goodness, this is beauty. And they say, Prof, don't cry. I say, oh, this is too much. Tears of joy. So that is me. So, I'm a researcher and I'm an academic. When I say that, it means that you, the authors, the writers, are the reason we do research. If you don't write, what are we going to read? What are we going to take forward? You are so important to the lives of academics and researchers because you write our history, you write our culture, you write our science, you write our everything. But I would like to pause and ask, how many of you, let me ask the Ugandans, how many of you authors know about the legal deposit law? That when you write a book about Uganda, in Uganda, and by a Ugandan, you are by law required to deposit a copy in 3 places. 1, the National Library of Uganda. 2, Makerere University Legal Deposit Section, which is in Africana. 3, the Uganda Management Institute Library. How many of you know that? Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Many times I ask and there's none. I'm glad. Of course, I know Miss Dr. Tumusime has been very, very supportive of observing this law, and I would like to thank you very much. Because the publishers, the printers, the authors the librarians, the documentarists, everybody who writes are supposed to observe that law. It is then that the things you write will be captured, will be recorded, so that in generations to come will be able to read and refer to what is there. You have heard how Dr. Jambo has been narrating those beautiful stories. I didn't do literature at all, but my brother who follows me did literature. And he kept saying things, and from what he used to say, I could pick a few things, and sometimes when I name, people think that I know. I don't know. But let me give you one. Many times in life, we find that you get problems, and they all come at the same time. And then we say, oh, what did Shakespeare say? Problems don't come in single spells. They come in battalions. When I say that, people think I know. It's just one because my brother kept on saying, this is now, Shakespeare said this. You see all these problems, this has come, this has come. This is the battalion Shakespeare was talking about. So, the things you write, you people in literature, you write things which are so real things we see in life, things we live with. Dr. Jambo talks about Wole Soyinka. Some time back, when the women's movement was starting in this country, I was fortunate to be one of the documentarists of that new Department of Women and Gender. Apparently, I'm one of the founder members, and that's why in the early days of Mary Karoro, when we were in Makerere, the formation of FemRight was something that was exciting. Every time we had celebrations of the women's movement, the Women's Day celebrations were proudly showing off the books which had been written by women. We always had a table where the works displayed by women, works which were written by women were displayed. Because women were making that contribution. And since 1984 during the Women's Conference, we were saying, look at the world in women's eyes. This time, if you put the women's eye, things may be different. And I'm glad when I had gone for that conference, it was a conference or African Association conference in the US. Professor Dr. Wole Soyinka was the keynote speaker. He spoke, as Robert said, and many of us were lost. So his sister was my host. When we visited, we were given ladies, women, African women to host us. So I had a presentation to make about the experience of young women. I was young at that time in the international projects. You see, at that time there had been criticism, rightly so, that the projects were top down. I think some of those international organizations, wherever they had some excess money, they rushed to us and gave us projects. And the implementation was a problem because we did not identify with the projects and with the things that happened. So I was asked to talk about those projects. And of course I gave that beautiful example which I could keep giving. The project that was taken in Zimbabwe, and I think many other countries, because of the documentation that had been done, that women walk long distances going to fetch water. They lose a lot of time. An African woman wakes up in the morning, goes digging, and then has to fetch water and walks miles. So when the World Bank came in to support the women at that time, they decided to bring wells near the homesteads. They would do the 10 homesteads and put a well. The another 10 homesteads and put a well. This is well documented. However, the women used to leave the well there and walk the miles to go and fetch water. Why? That was one of the ways the women had an outing. So they had their time that at 1 o'clock will be, or 12 o'clock will be going to fetch water. They go, 2, 3 of them chatting. These days the children are doing this. The husband is doing this. And they cancel themselves. Hmm? That was their canceling time. That was an outing to talk about their issues. They did not have any other chance apart from going to the well and going to the church. Now, what bank you come and put water there? You think you are saving a woman from walking. The woman will leave the well and walk there. The children will pick water from that well, but the women will continue. So I was talking about those kinds of projects. Then, before I talked, Wallace Oyinka's sister called me and said, Maria, please don't talk like my brother. You're a biologist. Please don't bring biology in these things. Just talk plain things. Plain. So I said, mine is just plain. He said, no, let's sit and we'll go through it. I had to sit with her and say, that's very good. Everybody will understand. You know, people have not understood my brother, what he said. So, Robert, you were right. You will not understand him. He's not easy to understand. So, members, you are authors. You write. But you remember the statement that when you want to hide something from an African, write it down. So I would like to request you, as I conclude, to leave you with a request that as you write, as you think about writing and documenting our culture, our history, our everything, please think about the reading culture, our very bad reading culture. If whatever project you write, if you can put in an aspect of promoting reading, please do so, so that what you write does not end in the hands of we academics, but even my sisters and the brothers who are not able, who stopped in P7, but now they think that they are so preoccupied with many things, they can find the time, they can pick interest. In fact, people read these newspapers full of pornography, but that's what they want. But for me, I've been saying, at least that shows that they can read. If after that, they can read something more sensible, then we can move. So I request you, please, find a way of promoting reading so that the things you write can actually be read. The beautiful stories you write, all those things, the culture, the history that you put down can be read by our people. So we can do away with that statement that when you write down something, you are hiding it away from an African. This is a big problem. I know there are a number of associations, organizations which are trying to address illiteracy, but we need to address it right from the adults and right from the children below, young children, so that they can pick the interest in reading. I would like to congratulate you for organizing this conference, and I would like to congratulate FEMRITE for having survived all those years, hard years, the turbulence and everything. And wish you well. Wish you well. We hope that you continue to grow and document our lives and ensure that our young people and our old people are able to read the things, the very important things that you write. I would like to thank the Department of Literature, the Faculty of Arts and Humanities for organizing and making sure that Kyambogo University hosts this conference. I would like to thank the sponsors of this conference for having sponsored it and having made it possible to be held at Kyambogo University. And as we say in Kyambogo University, knowledge and skills for service and for God and my country. I wish you a very fruitful conference. God bless you all.
She's asking me to have it sprayed, but we are safe. We are safe. I would like to thank you very, very much, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, thank you for representing so ably not just the VC, but the university. I would like to beg for your indulgence and ask that at this point we come up here and we take a picture with our host, since she has now given us a go-ahead with our conference. Please, let's come forward. Thank you. Yes, we outside. I think let's first have one here. We can have one here, a few people, and this is a moment, Deputy Vice Chancellor, to also see our keynote speakers who we spoke about before you came. Come and have a picture. Professor Steiner keeps telling me, just say Tina. Please come forward for the picture. Dr. Siwundu. Sister, let's move and have a picture. And then Professor Hoda, come forward, please. Chairperson of FEMRIGHT, come forward. I don't know where I have hijacked the MC's role. Let me hand over the mic back to them.
Jacob?
You can smile.
Invite you to come here because the banner is here that represents the conference. So can everyone come in front? And we have, no, in front, yeah, the banner. This guy is always Ladies and gentlemen, can we move in front? Let's try and hurry to catch up with time. Some can stand behind because you look taller. The other side is a bit higher so that everyone is seen. Just move behind, up, move behind, up, so that we can have the full representation of the conference and have a feel of it. I'll also move behind to enhance my height. I would like to ask the system operators to get the clip ready. We'll just have a brief moment before we go to what is next. Ladies and gentlemen, can we take our seats? What we are going to do. Had come, but she picked the microphone. Yeah, he's ready. I told him to get ready. Let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, at this particular point, I want us to have a feel of whom we are celebrating. He has written a number of books, and those books are very interesting. But like Dr. Jamba was saying here, when he won the Nobel Prize, they said an obscure writer. And yet, we know his full potential because he was telling a story right from the oral narrative and bringing it to life. We've seen his works, The Afterlife. We've seen By the Sea. And he's talking about people who are migrating. You see, Salah is migrating with a fake what? Passport. These are things we see even right now. We see someone pawning his son because of a debt, so he gives his son away. So if you read these books, they really tell you. I think one thing about Abdulrazak is he's a master of suspense. At the end of the book, you remain wondering where you are, and you have to go back and reflect on everything that he has written. At this point, I would like to call upon the systems operator to give us a word from him. He was not able to make it, but he did wish us well along our journey. And like Wole Soyinka said, let the tribes join in, isn't it? He called it the tribes. In other, this one has won, so let the tribes come. Let all of you be inspired to join and win. So let's have the clip running quickly. Johnson. So after this, after watching the clip, it's very short. We shall be team led by the executive director and the vice chancellor and the dean. We shall all go and have a look at the exhibition site, and then we shall have our health break. Johnson, we are still waiting for you. Johnson, that's not the clip. Please play the clip that's written.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write. Hi everybody, I'm Kyambogo. I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mats Malm. I'm the permanent secretary of the Swedish Academy. I'm very happy to be able to introduce to you the Nobel Prize in Literature lecture of the laureate of 2021, Abdulrazak Gurna. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the effects of colonialism and the fate of the refugee in the gulf between cultures and continents.
I did not realize this fully until I went to live in England. It was there, in my homesickness and amidst the anguish of a stranger's life, that I began to reflect on so much that I had not considered before. It was out of that period, that prolonged period of poverty and alienation, that I began to do a different kind of writing. It became clearer to me that there was something I needed to say, that there was a task to be done, regrets and grievances to be drawn out and considered. In the first instance, I reflected on what I had left behind in the reckless flight from my home. I hope you have a wonderful conference.
A brief clip, and we can now know where his inspiration is from, whatever he had gone through. By the way, he's the first in East Africa to win the Nobel Prize, the first African literature in East Africa. Then Africa literature, it was Wole Soyinka in 1986. Let's count the years. From 1986 to 2021, that's when we get another Nobel Prize. So let's have a clap for Abdulrazak Gurna. I would like to hand over to Hilda. She'll be team leading. All of us will move together with the Vice Chancellor, and the Dean will be moving to the tour section to see the exhibition there, and then we shall have our health break. And enjoy the exhibition and enjoy the break. Please, network.
Thank you, Linda. I want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, and we would like to give them a gift as we end here. To the Deputy Vice Chancellor, we would like to share with you the little that we have. You can show them what is there if you wish. And we would like to give the Dean, and this one we will ask one of the youngest members of FEMRITE, Tracy Linda, to to hand it over. I thank you and invite you to look at the books quickly, and then we head to tea. It's ready. I thank you.
And keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing, and then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing, and then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing, and then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case sooner or later you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
Is there a particular piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer?
Yes, the best advice you can give a writer is just write. There is no simple way. There is no way in which you can say, if you stand on your head twice a day, that this will enable you to write. You just have to write and keep writing, and don't be discouraged, just keep writing. Now, it could be you're in the wrong business, in which case, sooner or later, you'll discover that. But you won't discover that by querying yourself. You'll only discover that by the actual process of doing the writing. And then if that doesn't work, you can't persuade anybody at all forever to be interested in it, then it could be that you're in the wrong business. But even then, I wouldn't give up. I would still keep pressing on.
like to invite you to come back to the hall for the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite you to come back to the hall for the next session.
If you're still out, you'd want to make your way here, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're invited to come back to the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope we are all settled in right now. At this point, I would like to introduce you to Professor Tina Steiner. She's a professor at the University of Stellenbosch. That's in South Africa, the Department of English. She's one of those people who has been keen on colonial literature, and she has actually looked into the works of Professor Abdulrazak Gurna, and to her name, we've seen she has also contributed to a number of works on bilingual translations with the introduction, like in India and East Africa, and she has also looked into work and actually published work on translated people, translated language and migration in contemporary African literature. Looking at a person who has been closely interested and even intrigued and exploring African literature. Now, I know from the earlier presentations we're saying the Western, but I think when it comes to the literature, the world of language and literature and the beauty of it all, as someone said right at the beginning here, is that right now here we are family. We are all together, and there's nothing. And so we find ourselves picking interest even in the Western literature, and we find the Western also picking interest in African literature. And together we are able to build something that is so beautiful. And that's what Professor Tina Steiner has done. I would like us to put our hands together for the keynote address from Professor Tina Steiner from Stellenbosch University.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linda Lillian, for this lovely introduction. It's a great pleasure being here today and sharing these 3 days with all of you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I was very glad to accept the invitation. And I also would like to thank specific organizers for extending this invitation to me, and of course, first and foremost, the Executive Director of FemRight, Hilda. Thank you so much for inviting me and facilitating everything so beautifully. I really appreciate it. I also would like to thank the Program Officer of FemRight, Fortunate. Thank you for all your hard work in getting this event off the ground. I would also like to thank the Council Member of Power, Prof. Kabaji Igara, who gave us some words of welcome earlier. Thank you. And also the HOD of the Department of Literature and Film here at Kyambogo University, Elizabeth. I met her briefly this morning. I suspect she has to go to the Senate meeting that was going on today. And everyone else who has contributed. We all know that it's such a tough job to get an international conference off the ground. If it's one day, it's tough. If it's a day longer than that, it gets even tougher. So I would like to thank the entire team of FemRight, of Kyambogo University, of Power, everyone who's involved for their contribution, because it takes many hands to organize this. So thank you so very much for having me here. I would also like to thank the members of the audience for coming and all the presenters. I'm really looking forward to our conversations across the next 3 days. And what is lovely is that we don't have parallel sessions, which means that we hear each other talk, all of us, which is lovely, and I'm looking forward to that. When I started writing this keynote, this event was to take place in March. Remember, it got moved. And since then, a publisher has showed interest in this, and it came out recently. But this conference is its first and real home. So I'm glad to share it with you today. The intertextual worlds of Abdulrazak Gurna's fiction. He writes, "My encounter with Kiswahili was as a native speaker born into it in our house in Malindi. Many people in Malindi spoke a smattering of Arabic as well, and some spoke it fluently. My father was a fluent speaker. My mother could not speak a word except the words that had somehow smuggled their way into Swahili. From other houses you could hear the sound of Kuchi or Somali or the inflection of Kingajiza. Growing up in the 1950s and 1960s in Malindi, the part of Zanzibar town close to the harbour, Abdulrazak Gurna was exposed to a cosmopolitan web of cultural life. Reflecting on this later, he remarks that this created an enduring sense that contradictory cultural traditions felt negotiable. He began learning Arabic in Quran school called Choni at Mzikiti Barza, which he attended from the age of 5, before starting Darajani Primary School, where he learned the Roman alphabet. He went on to a school known as King George VI Secondary School until it was renamed Lumumba College in January 1964. Gurna described